A freezing nurse, a lonely millionaire cowboy, and one fateful night at a snow-covered train station changed everything. Their love defied class, loss, and the coldest storm in Wyoming's history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Let's get started. It was the coldest night in decades. The kind of night when even the stars hid behind clouds, afraid to shine. Snow fell heavy across the Wyoming plains, blanketing the small town of Elkhorn in silence. The 210 train from Chicago screeched into the lonely station, its whistle echoing like a cry through the white darkness. No one was there, no porter, no driver, no soul, except a young woman shivering on the wooden bench, half frozen, clutching a torn suitcase. Her name was Clara Wynne. A nurse, barely 26, with tired eyes that once saw too much war and not enough kindness. She had come to Wyoming after losing everything. The hospital in Kansas had closed, her family gone, her fiancé taken by the influenza wave. She had nowhere else to go. All she had was a letter, an offer to work at the newly built ranch hospital outside of Elkhorn. But the train came late, the driver refused to wait, and the last carriage lamp went out, leaving her alone in the storm. Then came the sound of hooves. At first, she thought it was her imagination. But then she saw the silhouette of a tall man on horseback, cutting through the snow like a ghost. His long coat flapped behind him, and his wide-brimmed hat shielded his face. The horse snorted steam, hooves crunching ice, and when he finally stopped in front of her, Clara could barely lift her head. "You'll freeze to death out here," the stranger said, his voice deep and rough like gravel. She tried to answer, but her lips barely moved. "The hospital, I was supposed to." He didn't wait for her to finish. Without another word, he lifted her into his arms, strong, warm, steady, and placed her on the saddle in front of him. "You're coming with me," he said. She wanted to protest, to ask his name, but she was too cold, too weak. Her head fell against his chest, and for the first time in months, she let someone else carry her burden. When Clara awoke, she was in a large room with a stone fireplace crackling near the foot of her bed. The heat made her dizzy. She sat up slowly, noticing the heavy quilt wrapped around her and the smell of cedar in the air. Her clothes had been dried and folded neatly on a chair. On the wooden table beside her lay a silver watch, a steaming bowl of soup, and a folded note that said, "Greater than, you're safe. Don't be afraid. HC. HC." She whispered the initials aloud. Who was he? The door opened, and the man from the train station walked in. His hat was gone now, revealing dark, wavy hair with silver streaks near his temples. He looked to be in his mid-30s, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes the color of storm clouds and a faint scar across his jaw. "You're awake," he said, quietly. "Yes, thank you," she replied, her voice trembling. "You saved my life." He nodded, pulling up a chair. "Name's Harlan Creed." The name hit her like lightning. She'd heard it before, Harlan Creed, the millionaire cattleman, the man who owned half of Elkhorn County. A rancher whose fortune came from wild mustangs and oil wells, a man both admired and feared. "Why were you at that train station?" he asked, breaking her thoughts. "I was waiting for someone from the ranch hospital," she explained. "They were supposed to meet me. I'm a nurse. Hospital shut down 2 months ago," he said flatly. Her heart sank. "What? Funding ran out. Investors pulled out after the floods. You came all this way for nothing." She stared at him, stunned. "Then why did you bring me here?" He looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Because you looked like someone who still had a reason to live." For days, Clara stayed at the Creed Ranch while the blizzard raged outside. She helped around the kitchen, tended to the workers' wounds, and in return, Harlan gave her a room and food. But there was something about him, something heavy and lonely in his eyes, as if he carried ghosts of his own. One evening, while she was bandaging a ranch hand's arm, she noticed a small boy watching from the hallway. He couldn't have been more than 6. "Who's that?" she whispered to the cook. "That's Eli," the cook replied. "Mr. Creed's son." His son. Clara blinked in surprise. She hadn't seen any woman around the ranch. "Where's his mother?" The cook hesitated. "She passed 2 winters ago." That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She could hear Harlan outside, walking the porch, boots crunching softly in the snow. The image of the quiet, haunted man and his motherless child lingered in her mind. She got up, wrapped a shawl around herself, and went outside. "You don't sleep much, do you?" she said softly. Harlan turned, surprised. "Not when the wind howls like that." "You lost someone," she said gently. "Didn't you?" His jaw tightened. "We all did." The silence stretched between them. The snow fell quietly, and the old porch lantern flickered. "Finally," he said, "her name was Lydia. She died giving birth to Eli. I built this ranch for her. Every board, every nail. She never saw it finished." Clara felt her throat tighten. "I'm sorry." He shrugged, looking away. "Sorry doesn't change the wind." But as he spoke, his voice cracked ever so slightly, and that small fracture revealed the man beneath, the pain, the guilt, the love that still haunted him. Clara placed a hand on his arm. "Maybe not. But it helps to know someone still cares." For the first time, Harlan didn't pull away. Over the next few weeks, something unspoken grew between them. Clara would read to Eli by the fire while Harlan listened quietly from the doorway. She taught the boy how to tie bandages, how to care for the wounded horses. Harlan would watch her hands, steady and gentle, and wonder how someone could bring so much calm into his storm. One afternoon, Clara found Harlan fixing a fence post near the north field. The sun was setting, turning the snow gold. "You don't talk much," she teased, handing him a flask of water. He smiled faintly. "Words don't build fences." "No, but they build people," she said. "And you've built walls, not fences." He looked at her, really looked at her then, the way her hair glowed in the dying light, the way her eyes seemed to see right through his silence. "You think you can fix me, nurse." "I don't fix people," she said softly. "I help them heal themselves." That night, as the wind roared over the plains, Harlan stood by the window, watching the snow drift past the lanterns. He had faced storms, death, and ruin, but nothing scared him more than the feeling now swelling in his chest. He was falling in love. One night, disaster struck. A lantern overturned in the barn, setting fire to the hay. The horses screamed, and the flames spread fast. Clara woke to the noise and ran out barefoot into the snow. "Harlan," she cried. He was already there, trying to cut the horses loose. Smoke choked the air, sparks raining down. She grabbed a bucket, dousing the flames near the stall doors. "Get back," he shouted. "I'm not leaving," she yelled back. "You'll burn alive." The beam above them cracked and fell. He threw himself over her, shielding her from the collapse. When the smoke cleared, the barn was half gone, but the horses were safe, and so were they. Clara's hands trembled as she wiped ash from his face. "You could have died. So could you," he said. "I couldn't let you die." "Why not?" he asked, eyes locked on hers. "Because," she whispered, voice shaking, "I think I love you." The words hung between them like firelight. Harlan's breath caught. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he reached out, brushing a strand of soot from her cheek. "You shouldn't," he said softly. "Men like me bring storms, not sunshine." "Maybe I'm tired of sunshine," she whispered back. And then he kissed her. It wasn't a gentle kiss, it was desperate, raw, years of pain melting into one moment of truth. When they finally pulled apart, the snow had stopped falling. Weeks passed. The fire was rebuilt, the ranch stood tall again, and so did their love. But not everyone approved. Word spread across Elkhorn, rumors of the rich rancher and the penniless nurse. Some said she was after his fortune. Others whispered that Harlan had lost his mind, falling for a woman beneath his class. One evening, a man arrived at the ranch, a banker from Chicago, offering to buy out Creed's land. "Your empire's worth millions," the man sneered. "Don't throw it away for some charity case." Harlan didn't answer. He simply looked at Clara, standing behind him, holding Eli's hand. "This ranch isn't for sale," he said firmly. "And neither is my heart." That night, he took Clara's hand and led her outside to the old oak near the ridge. The moonlight painted silver across the snow. "I used to come here with Lydia," he said quietly. "I promised her I'd never love again. I thought that was loyalty. Turns out, it was loneliness wearing a mask." Clara's eyes filled with tears. He took a deep breath. "But when I found you that night, half frozen, alone, I realized something. Sometimes, God doesn't send you the person you ask for. He sends you the one you need." He knelt in the snow, pulling a small box from his coat. Inside was a ring carved from a horseshoe nail. "It ain't gold," he said, smiling faintly. But it's strong. Like you. Clara laughed through her tears. Harlan Creed, are you asking? I'm asking you to stay, he said. To make this place home. She threw her arms around him, whispering, yes. And when he kissed her again, the wind carried the sound across the plains like a song. Dash dash dash. Their wedding was small, held in the ranch chapel Harlan built with his own hands. The snow melted that spring, and the fields bloomed wild with color. The townsfolk who once gossiped now tipped their hats when they passed. They saw how he smiled when she walked by, how Eli ran to her every morning shouting, "Mama." Years later, their story became legend in Elkhorn, the tale of the millionaire cowboy who found love in the middle of a storm. And on quiet nights, when the wind whispered through the grass, people swore they could still see two figures riding side by side under the moon, a man and a woman whose love had turned the coldest night in history into the warmest tale ever told.